Then I remember asking, I was like, hey, if we have to go to war, like, what's the chances of me going to war? And he was like,
Welcome back to the Swayside Connection podcast. And there's always firsts on this podcast. And I'd like to say we finally have our first non-1998er on the podcast. And just without further ado, who do we have here today?
hey, what's up? This is Warren Stewart, class of 99, Spanaway Lake High School. So, hey, what's good? How are you doing?
What's good? Class of 99 is in the building. So,
Well, I guess I'm not technically your first since you had Coach Oseth on, but I guess first student.
Yeah, first student. Yeah, you're right. First student. That's the first student that wasn't 1998. But yeah, how did you find it? How did you hear about this podcast, by the way?
Yeah, I think like I saw like I was scrolling through YouTube, so when I during my commute, I kind of watch like podcasts on YouTube and stuff like that. And then I saw your name. I was just like, "What's this?" And I saw it with James, like the first one he posted. I was like, "This is crazy! Like, what is this?" So I kind of watched it a little bit on my commute to work, and then I was like, "All right, I'll come back to it." And then like I saw Brienne's. I watched James. I saw Brienne's. I saw.
Yeah, she
I
gave
didn't
you
get
a
to
shout
watch
out.
it. Yeah, I did see that. I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." Then I listened to
Yeah.
Jay's, and then I was like, again, I got shout out. I was like, "Man, that's crazy." And then I watched Corey's too. So I was like, and then I commented,
Because
and I was like, "Hey, this is dope. Seeing you guys, catch up and just seeing you guys doing
yeah,
well." So that's how I came
no,
across it. It was
no,
just random. It was randomly came across it, and I was just like, "Dang, it's
that's
good to see Heinz
amazing.
doing well."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the YouTube algorithm that did that. That's what's
it
crazy.
was. Yeah.
Because James has been
So
proud that basically half the people, when I ask them, they're just like, "Well, James told me." So he's like, "But this
yeah,
this one was YouTube algorithm," and that's what's crazy too, is because you're not even close to Spanaway right now, right? From obviously from
I
Bree's
haven't
podcast.
been. Yeah, I haven't been in Spanaway since I graduated, since '99.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really haven't been back. I think I've been back. Well, obviously my brother graduated in 2001.
Yep. Yep.
So I came back for his graduation and stuff like that. And I would come back during when I was in school during like breaks and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
since I like graduated from West Point, I haven't been back. My parents moved. My brother's down in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And
Let's go.
so
Let's start it all. Let's go back.
yeah,
Yeah, that's dope. That's kind of like you gave us the little intro to the intro for sure. So man, where did you go to elementary? Where were you born? And maybe
okay.
elementary, and then like when did you come to Spanaway?
Yeah, so I was born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, back in 1981, which is like crazy to say because it's so long ago now.
Yeah, it
And
is.
you got to do the whole scroll when you pick out your year and they have a little scroll. You got to scroll for like ages now.
Yeah.
It's just wild. But yeah, so then I was born in Fort Campbell. My dad was in the military, of course, as that's how I eventually got to Spanaway. Then we lived in my mother, she's Korean, so my parents met in Korea. My dad came over. Once they came back to the States, first place they stopped in Fort Campbell. They had me. Then from there, we lived in like other places. My dad was still in the Army all the way until we got to Spanaway. So eventually, we ended up, my dad got stationed at Fort Lewis, and that's how I ended up going to Spanaway. But I was first at went to school on base at Fort Lewis.
Okay.
My dad lived on base for a little bit, and then I got to like
What grade was
I
that?
can't remember. It
Yeah.
was like kindergarten through
You were
I
super
want
young.
to
Okay.
say
Yeah.
yeah,
Super young.
but then I got to like Thompson Elementary when I
Yep.
was
Yep.
in I want to say third or fourth grade. So that's how I
Okay.
ended up living in Spanaway. So yeah. So I was in Spanaway all the way there from third grade.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned obviously you have a brother.
Yeah.
How much younger was he again? He
We're
was like
15 months apart, but he's 2 years behind me.
okay. Okay.
So yeah.
And then where was he born then? Like was
He was
he
born in Detroit. So like again, we came back to the
just for
States.
all the moving? Wow.
Yeah, from the moving, we ended up staying with my grandparents for a little bit while my dad was transitioned to. Again, it's so long ago. I don't know where, but my mom, while my mom was pregnant with my brother, we stayed in Detroit. She had him in Detroit, and then from there, I think we moved. We lived in Germany for a little bit. I want to say we might have lived in Korea for a year or so, but I was like super young. I don't remember it all. I seen
Yeah.
pictures,
It's the
and then
80s. Because
yeah, it's in the
same, I was
80s.
born in Germany. My dad was in Korea in '88, and yeah, so it was. I feel like man, the military was really strong, like going to those two places because almost everybody I know has connections to either Korea or Germany.
Yeah,
So
so I
yeah,
was in Germany for a little bit, and then we ended up going back to the States. And like I said, the last place my dad was stationed was Fort Lewis.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So went to Thompson, and then after Thompson, you went to Spanaway Junior.
Spanaway Junior. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Spanaway Junior and then Spanaway Lake.
And then, did you do activities like were you in sports when you were at Thompson? Were you or just at that
Yeah,
age?
so like I wanted to play sports for a while. Like I wanted to play football, but my dad was like, "Nah, we're gonna wait." I played basketball in Bethel Rec, and then I played baseball as well, softball and baseball. So I didn't play tackle football until I got to junior high. So
Yeah. Yeah.
which is crazy since I ended up
Yeah.
going to college to play ball. So
Yeah.
and I listened to stories of my classmates from West Point and everything. They've been playing since they were like 5 years old, and I was
Young.
just like, "Wow, that's crazy." So yeah,
I didn't play tackle football till I got to Spanaway Lake. I didn't even play. I didn't play at Cedar Crest. I
really,
know. Yeah.
that's
And so
crazy.
I know because I look back and my sophomore year, I thought I was just too cool because I was able to run with the ones but I really should have played JV. Like I look back and I'm like, damn, I think if I really should have. I wish I played in junior high. I think that all would have helped me. But
Yeah, 'cause I'll be honest with you, like watching you play, like when I got to Spanaway Lake and watching you play, I was just like, man, I thought you played for your whole life because you was running
no,
around looking like a missile out there.
yeah, because that was it. Like I think why that's what the coaches appreciated was that I was like like just ready to run around, basically, kind of like how you're saying. And but like you also probably know I missed hella tackles. Like I probably led the team in missed tackles behind the
I
line
didn't
of
want to say nothing.
scrimmage.
Hey, I didn't want to say nothing because the film sessions with Coach Wright was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, because like I just I would get so excited I never broke down, and I was always looking for a big old hit too.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like
You were definitely the.
like is easy for people to juke me. So like just one move, and then I'd not
Hey,
do
because
that would fly.
you was full go. You was
Thank
full
you,
go.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. But so you get to Spanaway Junior. You played all three sports too when you got there.
Yeah, once I got to Spanaway Junior High, I guess like I played football, basketball, and baseball.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice,
that's the sports I played when I got to junior high.
nice. Do you have any like memories from Thompson or Spanaway Junior? Like any moments?
Thompson, I mean, not too many. Just like I
Yeah,
was
it's
just
hard.
adjusting. It was just I was always known as the kid that wore the sports goggles. So I used to wear glasses back in the day, a long time ago, and like I guess I would break my glasses all the time. So my dad says, I would constantly be playing. So you had like regular pair of glasses,
Because
but
you were active. You had glasses and
yeah,
you
I
were
was active,
active.
and I play sports, so it's like every pair of glasses I got I broke. So finally, my dad was like, he's fed up with buying me glasses, and like, so I got like rec specs, so like the Earl Campbell joints, like the Horace Grants.
Yes.
So
Grants,
like,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. So I think I was probably everybody knew me because I was a kid that wore sports goggles. Like I would wear them like all the way through. Like I think I gave it up because it wasn't cool. It didn't look cool. Like once I got to eighth grade, like in seventh grade, I wore rec specs in my helmet underneath my helmet. It was like so hard to put on, and it was just like, yeah, I just gave it up. But everybody kind of knew me. It was like, it's funny. I would go play when I used to play basketball on post at the bases. And they'd be like, "Oh, I got Horace Grant," even though I was like a kid and playing up and
Like
stuff like that. It was like they called me Horace Grant all the time. It was just terrible comparison. I didn't like it at all because Horace
you did
Grant was like not
a
Michael
beat.
Jordan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was still a
So
beast. I would have, man,
I
I
mean,
would have owned
he
it.
was good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I eventually was like whatever. I don't care. But when I was younger, because everybody wanted to be like
Thrill.
Mike. So,
That's so
but
true, though. No, that's
yeah,
just a true point. That's a true point. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. And so, yeah, so when I got to Spanaway Junior High, I was just, got into sports, and that's kind of how like I accepted. So like I played like seventh grade football was the first year I played tackle football. I would watch the JV and varsity teams playing and stuff like that, and I was just like, man, that's just so far away from me. I couldn't like imagine playing because it was like, your first time playing tackle football, you still kind of learn the game. I was like, a bigger kid, one of the
Yeah,
bigger kids, but and like somewhat, somewhat athletic kind of still, but still learning the game.
yeah,
And so like it was funny because like, when I first started, I played like center and outside linebacker, which is like wild why I played center. The reason why I played center was because like during flag football, like at Thompson, I guess the team they weren't very like the coach kind of knew the kids that he wanted to play, even though I could catch the ball, but he
yeah,
never let me catch. So I was just like, I just wanted to play. I didn't care. So I played center. And flag football back then is different than flag football now because I have a son. He played flag football. It's like more like skelly, like passing, passing lane
yeah.
kind of skelly. But our flag football, we had offensive linemen and we'd
And they
run the
could
blocks
catch.
and Yeah, well, no, we couldn't catch those. Just like playing tackle football with just with flags. So yeah, so all through Bethel Rec and everything like that. So I ended up playing center, junior high, and then like outside linebacker. Because the reason why I played outside linebacker because Derek Thomas was my favorite player, and I wore 57 because of him. So I was just like, that's what I want to do. But I got moved to tight end my last game of the season because whoever was playing tight end, I do not remember who it was, got hurt and couldn't play. So the coach, he had open tryouts for who wants to play tight end. And it was a simple tryout. It was like whoever caught the most pass. We would run a route, and if you dropped a pass, you were out. And I was the last person that I caught every pass. So I was the last person. That's how I became a tight end, which
That's
is
the
funny because I ended up playing, tight end all
tight
the way through
end.
high school. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then so then I played tight end. I caught a touchdown pass, and I was like, all right, I love this. This is great.
yeah,
And that's when like the first year, just I really fell in love with football and fell in love with
yeah,
and was like interested in playing in high school and playing forward and stuff like that. And then I played basketball as well. I thought I was gonna be a basketball player. I thought I was gonna go to the NBA. Again, just having hoop dreams and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty much it. And then sports is where I met. That's where I met Robert. I met
yeah,
Corey Alexander, Corey
yeah,
Jones. Josh
yeah.
Brown, all them guys. I remember Josh Brown, he kind of used to make fun of my name because it's like Warren. And he'd say, hey, Warren, I'm giving you a warning. Every single time he saw me, I was like, all right, man, that's cool. But yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, and I was telling you earlier, that's when I first met Corey Alexander.
yeah.
And like, I don't know, man. He was like, I know the reason why he got the nickname Sandman. And it was just like, he was so intimidating. And I was just like, man, this is like, he looks like a grown man in junior high. And I was just like, dang. And he was so cool. He was like really cool to me. But at the same time, I kind of understood the nickname why he had Sandman. And I was just like, man, I just can't be on his bad side at all. So I tried like as nice as possible to him, my kid. So
Yeah, and he's an interesting one because he's super intimidating, but at the same, but like if you know him, man, he's super cool,
and
like
super
super
funny.
hilarious. Yeah, that's what I mean.
He always made me laugh. But when I first saw him, because and Spanaway has that reputation of, about, being about that life and kind of, has
Yeah,
that thug mentality for everybody outside. And again, there was a reason for it, there's some truth in it. And
yeah,
I would just, but he was mad cool, hella cool, always cool to me once we got to know each other and stuff like that. So yeah.
for sure,
And
for
yeah, you're
sure.
right. I was his understudy because it seemed like everything he did, I was like right behind him doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and no, that's why it's like I love these, just kind of like bringing back those memories because it was such a fun time though too. Just because I got to play football with you for 2 years, and man, those 2 years were super fun. So it's what about now? Do you have like any junior high memories that didn't involve sports?
Oh, I was in band. So
No,
yeah.
no way. Yeah,
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 I played so it worked out. So I was like, but I was terrible at it. I didn't practice. I was just like it was just something to
that'll
do
do
for
it.
some reason but for some reason it worked out because like I played it was in band in what, 7th, 8th and ninth grade. And like so ninth grade year is your freshman year and you don't really think about it. And for credits wise, you had to have a fine arts credit. So I didn't think about it at the time, but I took the class, took band and well, yeah, I got good grades and I was able to knock out the fine credits my, freshman year where like, other classmates of my classmates, they were scrambling to find like fine arts class
Arts
their senior
credits.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah, fine arts credits for their senior year and stuff like that. So it worked out while I was in band and then, made the National Honor Society. So, I did pretty well in school. And, that's when I first kind of like, learned about math and I always did well with math and stuff like that. And then where I met like really good friends and stuff. So like,
from like
like
other
Melvin
schools.
Ravenel. No, from like Spanaway Junior High. So, just where I
Nice.
started making friends. And, like Melvin was my boy.
Yeah,
We were tight. We were always together and stuff like that. So it's funny. We kind of, because, I'm black and Korean. He's black and Korean. For a while, people thought we were actually brothers, but we weren't. We kind of played off on it, stuff like that.
yeah.
Said
No,
we
I
were
could see
brothers or
that.
cousins. So,
Yeah,
because, we all look alike. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
yeah, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, just always like try to do well at school and, play sports. That's pretty much what I was known for, I guess, while
For
I was in
sure.
Spanaway Junior.
For
Yeah.
sure. And then like now going into high school, do you have any memories from high school now, just in general, sports wise, whatever wise? So
Sports. I mean, I remember like the summer before going into high school, so 10th grade. And like,
yeah,
I was obviously gonna play football. So like, we started school early. So we started with the football team and I was like, I was super nervous. I thought I was kind of ready, but I was super nervous at the same time because,
Yeah, I was
obviously
nervous
coming to a
too.
new environment, like
Yeah.
trying to make a name for yourself.
I
Cause
think
like,
that's everybody. I think most people's sophomore like that first, because it's like classes haven't started yet, and like now you're going to the school for football practices, and like you don't know what to expect. So
yeah. And like, I had played up. So from eighth grade and ninth grade, I played varsity. Well, I guess in
yep,
junior high, you played varsity. So I played
yep,
up. So that's where again, that's where I first met Robert and all the other guys. Cause in eighth grade, I played with them while they were in ninth grade. So, so yeah, so I kind of knew them and everything like that, but still, it's just coming in a different environment. And like, that's why I was like so thankful for your guys in class. Cause like Robert just opened, was very welcoming to me and just said, hey, don't worry about it. You're good. You'll be fine. Everything is so like, you get there, started, doing well during practice and everything like that. I eventually got a chance to, run with the ones on offense with that tight end. And like, I just remember as we got closer to the year, like right before the jamboree, I thought I was done because like we was doing a punt drill and like
those
it was like a
special
punt
teams
team was practicing.
drills.
Yeah, yeah. And like we was doing a thing, and then I just remember someone landed on my knee, and like I heard a huge pop, and I thought I had tore my knee up, and I thought I was done. And it was just like, luckily it wasn't nothing serious, or I just missed the first couple weeks of ball, so I couldn't play in the jamboree, and I didn't play in the first game, and I was like, so I played in the second game because yeah, I remember you talking to Corey about that Lakes game and how that quarterback threw the state record
Yeah,
for touchdown passes, and it's
yeah.
funny because like I
He
remember
threw
looking in
8.
Sports Illustrated.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just remember in Sports Illustrated. You remember how they used to have like the athlete of the
yeah,
week,
yep.
and like
He
in that it was like he was in that mag. I
he
was just
was
like,
in there.
dang, like
Yes,
we nationally known for giving up 8
on the
touchdowns.
wrong side. We nationally
Yeah,
alone on the wrong
yeah,
side. Yeah,
yeah. So, but yeah, eventually, I remember watching that game, and I was just
that
like
was
so
your
pissed because
sophomore
I couldn't.
year.
Yeah, it was
That
my
Lakes
sophomore
game
year.
where we got.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember.
It was
So when we got there too, it was so emotional. But because when we got to the stadium, coach showed us like, or the coaches had laid out our uniforms, and it was like brand new uniforms, and they were like crispy white, like they look clean,
yeah,
right? And I remember just being so hyped, and we were just so excited. I think we might have been too excited too, because like I mean, we obviously
well,
got spanked that game, but
yeah, and I think like he was also like one of the top quarterbacks in the state and stuff like
that
that.
too, and they had hella great receivers too. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they had
And I was just like, and that's when I first knew I was like, man, this high school football is different. Like
different,
I
yeah,
was like, man, I was like, I was like, again, I didn't play in the jamboree, so I was just amongst our team and stuff like that. And I started to get comfortable and I was just like, man, I don't know if I can, compete on that level. I was like, man, because it was looking so fast out there, and I
yeah,
was just like, man, this is wild.
yeah.
And
And
so yeah,
I know there was a little extra too, because Coach Wright went to Lakes, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so there
yeah. I
was a
remember.
little extra there too
Yeah,
that he did
but
not appreciate, obviously, because and it was just like, yeah, that was just a brutal game. This is a random story. There's one of the times I remember we were at Hollywood Video. I remember I ran into you and your dad at Hollywood Video, and then I don't know, just something super random came up about like a candy bar or something like that. And I was just like, oh, why don't you? And I remember saying to you, why don't you just get that candy bar or whatever? Why don't you just eat that candy bar? And then you were like, oh, my dad won't let me. And with the straight face. And I was just like, what? And then
yeah, 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 yeah.
you were like, no, ask him.
I'm
And
dead
so I
ass. Yeah,
asked
yeah,
your
I'm dead
dad,
ass.
I was like, hey, can Warren have this candy bar? He's like, no. And I was just like, you guys are serious. And then I was like, oh,
Yeah, it
that's
was like, yeah.
what?
So again, like against my class, and I think through, like Spanaway Lake, it was my dad was, known because he was very present and like he came to all the games.
All the
He was
games.
always around. Yeah, always around. And like, it's funny because Corey used to say like because my dad had this Colt Vista. I don't even know like if they ever made another one because that was like the only one I ever saw. And Corey would always say like, "Hey, I saw your dad in the Stewart mobile." So he named because like my dad would go everywhere in that car. So like all practices, all games, and he's like, or just around town, he's like, "Hey man, I saw your dad rolling around the Stewart mobile." So I was just like, "Oh man, that's wild." But yeah, and then also my dad used to like always obviously record the game. So all the film we ever watched was the stuff my dad recorded.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So it was like always bad because like we would play on Friday night and then we would come on I think Monday and watch the
Yep.
film.
Yep.
And so like Yeah, my dad was really strict. Everybody kind of knew who my dad was, and like it was funny. They would always like whenever I would mess up, he'd always make me do push-ups, and people were like, "Oh, don't mess up before I make your dad tell you to do push-ups." So it was like, and like I couldn't really go. I didn't really go out much,
Yeah.
and my dad wouldn't let me do much because again, which I appreciated much later, but in
Yes.
the time I was like, man, I just want to go out and hang out with my friends. But my dad was
Yes.
like,
You just want to be a
no,
part. Yeah.
yeah, because like I would hear, obviously we go Monday through Friday, and then you hear stuff about Saturday, and it's like, dang, I wish it was like, but everybody would be like, oh, I would have invited you, but I know you couldn't come. So I was just like, okay, that's fair. That makes sense. But yeah, but I appreciate it because like he made me focus and like uh, focus on my grades, and I did well in school, and was able to carry that all the way once I got to college a little bit, kind of had that discipline and stuff like that. So
So hold on, hold on, hold
yeah,
on, hold on, hold on though. So like it was strict where you couldn't eat sugar. Like that's where I was just
I
kind of
mean,
like,
like it wasn't that bad, but it was like if we're out, because like everything we had was at home.
okay,
So
okay, so that
like,
makes sense. Okay, because I
you know,
like to me, my mind was
and,
blown. I was at Hollywood
and,
Video, and I remember like, damn man, Warren
and
is like he looks like a grown ass man
yeah, but it's like you come from very humble beginnings. I mean, we
for
didn't
sure,
have much, so
for
it's like
sure.
that's like always where me and my brother would joke and stuff like that. So if we go out, like, hey Dad, can we get some McDonald's? He'd be like, oh, we got McDonald's at home. Hey Dad, can we go to like Baskin and Robbins and get some ice cream? We got
A
ice cream at home.
thousand,
And so it was like everything it was always at home. So it's like we go out and get stuff, and like my parents did everything they needed to make sure I had everything I needed. But
for sure.
we couldn't, get like stuff like that. So we was there to rent a movie. So that's what we was getting was a movie.
Yes,
Like
yeah,
nothing extra. Don't ask for
exactly.
nothing. Don't touch nothing. And we
And
just,
I brought this up in a previous podcast. So like because for proms and senior balls and stuff like that, people would go to the waterfront to those restaurants, and they would
yeah.
seem so fancy
Yeah,
because
I was
there's
hearing that
no
they talked
way.
about in the last one with
Yeah,
Chris. Yeah, because there's like
dude,
we go
we're
place
not
and it's
eating
just
there. Your dad is not taking you guys to eat on
no,
the waterfront anywhere, right?
not at
Because like you
all.
said,
Not at
all
all.
that food is at home. Like, and so
Yeah,
kind of we
everything was
had
there. It was
that
like whatever you wanted. Like, yeah. And plus, my
exactly.
favorite food was Korean food. My mom was making homemade Korean food, so why would I want anything else?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, yeah. So that's why it's hella fun. It's just so funny because I just remember that story vividly. So it's like I'm glad I
Yeah,
get
like
to.
yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's hilarious. That definitely was on brand for my dad and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like it wasn't like I guess people would say he was strict because like again you hear different things, but it's like
Yep.
he just put me in a regiment to where it was like, hey, you want I know what you want to do because we sat down and talked
Yes.
about what my goals were, and he's
Yes.
like, hey, this is what you want to do. I'm gonna do everything I can to help you get to your goal. And so it was
Yes.
like this is the path we set. There's no need to veer off on it and go left or right
Yeah.
to where again, but once he got lighter as my senior year. Towards my senior year, I was like, a little bit more relaxed. I kind of, had decided where I was going to college to play ball and everything like that. So it was got a little bit better, but early on, like all through like junior high and somewhat through high school, it was very strict on what we can and can't do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had that. You had. So when did you set those goals with your dad and like kind of understand like this is kind of what you wanted to do?
So like going into like ninth grade, my dad kind of saw like I was pretty, good at football. I could be
Yeah.
pretty good at
For sure.
football and good at basketball too. I was decent at basketball. I think I was a lot better, you know, early on when I was, coming, but I started focusing on football more. So he sat down and was like, hey, look, you could be good at this. Do you want, if you just want to be part of the team and play and just be a guy on the team and everything like that, maybe do good, make a couple plays, like that's fine. But if you want this to be where you can go to the next level,
Mm,
I will help you get there. So it's like always, I never played for the level I was at. So it was like prepared for the level I was at. I was always trying to play for. So in junior high,
no, it's
once I
good.
said like, this is what I want to do. He was like, all right, cool, I got you. So we started preparing for high school when I was in junior high. And then once I was in high school, I started playing for college.
Yeah.
And then like, everything after that, I just knew I just wanted to play D1 football, like in college. That's like, I wanted to play football in college. And that was like the goal.
Yeah.
And then like I also like took it serious. Like after my sophomore year, I got my first letter from a college. I think it was like BYU. Coach Roback handed me this. I was like, hey, this is for you. And
Wow.
I was like, what the? This is crazy. Like I'm getting recruited to play football. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And then I remember talking to my dad. I was like, hey, do we have like money set aside for me to go to college? Because like that's when I
Yeah.
started thinking about. I was like, man, college could be a real thing. And then my dad kind of said, yeah, we got a little college savings for you. I was like, at that moment, I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but he's trying to,
Yeah.
so, but then that's when I knew I had to like focus and buckle down. So if I wanted to go to college, I gotta make this football shit work. And
Yes.
like, that's when I started like really, focusing on that, focusing on more on school. Cause like, I know a lot of people didn't know this, but my dad would always prepare me for my math class. Like he'd figure out what math I was doing and then like during that school year and then give me and make me learn it that summer. So like
Wow.
all summer I would learn like whatever math class I was going to, like whatever grade, I would learn it during the summer. So I'll be prepared. So it won't be the first time I see it. So like
Yes.
yeah, I just remember growing up and like I got to a point where I was like, I think it was like going into like junior high or something, and I was like learning geometry on my
Yep.
own. And like
Wow.
I used to be able to go to him and be like, "Hey, Dad, I don't understand this. Like, can you help me do this?" Because he would go to the library, check out. I mean, it's crazy to think about going to a library to check out a book. So on whatever subject. So I went, "Hey, can you help me figure this out?" And he's like, he looked at it and I could tell he had no clue. And he was like, "Well, what's the book say?" And I was like, "All right, I know you don't know it. I can't ask you for help no more in math." So
Wow.
yeah, so like, yeah. So you helped me like make sure I was learning, focus on school, like preparing for going to the next grade and everything for all the classes that I take and everything like that. So yeah.
So
Bro.
then, because you have a younger brother, right, that was also playing sports too, was he kind of like put on like a very similar regimen that you were put
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, but my brother was a little bit more rebellious than me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he would always have to like come fall like so obviously I'm a couple years ahead of him, so when I had to go to junior high, my dad would have to drop me off at school earlier and then my brother would just have to come along and sit there and wait. And so like he kind of felt like my dad was like always constantly on him. So my brother, he was a little bit more hot-headed
Got
and
it.
like
Yeah.
a little bit more different and more a little bit more cocky, a little more confident. I mean, by all rights, because like he is the hands down the best athlete I've ever seen in like in my eyes on. Like, I see guys on the NFL and stuff like that, but like, you actually witness and see, he's like
Live.
hands down the best athlete. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the best athlete I've ever seen. I mean, he had all right, but it was just like he's like a lot different than me. Where maybe I guess like looking back, he felt a lot of pressure because of the success I
Yeah.
had, but he was always like trying to go further than me and do better than me. So so
That's
yeah, it was
dope.
like it was plus that we were so close in age, and it was just a constant like sibling rivalry that we
Yeah.
had, where we kind of always pushed each other to be better.
For
So yeah,
sure.
and to this day, I can still beat him in 100. So he'll
Woo!
if you ever have him on here, he'll deny it and say that's crazy, but I'm saying here first. So I'm trying to form a narrative.
For sure. For sure. So, man. So, we've obviously said that, I played football with you for a couple of years. And so, I graduate, our class graduates, you're a senior. Like, where were you at in the recruiting process going into your senior year?
So like going in my senior year, it was just I was getting a lot of letters from
Okay.
schools. I started
So you
getting
weren't
like
decided yet, or
I
you
didn't
didn't?
decide until
Okay.
like going through like senior year, it was like schools that I wanted to go. It was like crazy the schools I wanted to go. Like I was thinking about going to Colorado. I thought about going to UW. I was getting recruited by Stanford, uh, a bunch of Ivy League schools because again, people saw my GPA and like
Yeah.
how well I was doing and stuff like that. So and and all the activity I was doing. So, yeah, I was just like looking at those schools. Then I got a letter from West Point. And it was just like crazy because I remember I got the letter from West Point. And the first thing I did, I was like threw it in the trash because I was like, I'm not going to the army because it said army, army
Yeah.
food. I was like, there's no way. My dad served and everything like that. People kind of think that's the reason, but no, it wasn't because I literally threw it in the trash. My dad saw me do this, like, hey, fill this out. Like, don't do that. Like, fill this out. You never know. So it was like, I was like, all right. So I filled out, you get the little crew and you fill out the information about, all your measurables and stuff like that. And then I sent it off. And so like, yeah, those are the type of schools I was getting recruited by. So it was just like, and it was just like all of, because I was just trying to play ball and,
Yeah.
do well. And like, I didn't really start focusing on like the schools until much later, until after the football season, like during basketball season. That's really when I started to, concentrate and figure out what school I was going to go to. So, but yeah, I
Gotcha.
was getting letters from like all kinds of schools, like all up and down the West Coast, couple Pac-10 schools, couple Big Ten schools.
Did you ever think about playing hoop in college too, or were
I
you
mean,
just
for a
like, nah,
little bit,
my focus is
I think
football?
for a little bit I did, but it was like, all right, so like, all right, going back a little bit. So going into
Yeah.
10th grade, right?
Yeah.
It was Coach Host's first year
Yeah.
there. And like, First of all, it's crazy to figure out that he's 24. I thought he was like 35 or something like that because like he looks so I mean the double Khaled story, which is like funny because the way Corey used to say it, he was like, because again, my dad filmed this stuff like that, and you would watch the tape and you would be like trying to watch what's going on, but it'd be so distracting because you see the bald spot in the back of his head. And like he's like, hey, he was literally serious about it being a double Khaled. Because I remember Corey pointed it out. He's like, Coach, what's up with that bald spot? You going balling? And but anyway, so yeah, so
You guys are
but
mean. Yeah, you guys are mean players, man. You guys are messed up, dude. Leave Principal Hoseth alone, man.
you're right,
Yeah,
you're right,
double
right, right,
cowlick.
yeah,
Nah, that double cowlick story is hilarious, though. It's like
yeah,
I didn't
it
realize that
was,
was an actual term. So thank
yeah.
you,
I didn't
Coach,
know
for
it was a
that.
term anyway. Yeah, I didn't know it was a term. I was like, everybody was like, "There's no way that's real." Like, I don't care what it says. There's no way that's real. But so yeah, I don't even know what we're talking about. Like,
We were talking about hoop. I asked you, did you think about
yeah,
playing
yeah. So
hoop in
like, yeah.
college?
So we had open gym, and I remember going to open gym. I was thinking like, I was gonna play, play up because again, I've always played up. Once I got
Yeah.
to eighth grade, I played up, right?
You're
So I'm
huge. Just
thinking,
so for the people kind of get a clue, dude. Warren was huge for his age. So like he look.
I
I mean, he
appreciate
was
it,
a soft. I mean, you were just big. You're like.
yeah,
So when I met Warren, he was 5 inches taller than me, but probably we probably weighed the same, but he was he's just huge. He's just a huge kid, and he was athletic. That for you to play up, it kind of made sense because you didn't look like you were your age when I met you. Like when you were a sophomore, you didn't look like a sophomore. So that's why it's like, yeah, of course this
well,
fool
I
should be playing
appreciate it.
varsity, or whatever.
Yeah,
But so
yeah. So I remember going to open run, and I think I was gonna play, and then I saw Jay Thomas, and I was just like, oh snap, this is what a real basketball player looks like. And there was like when I saw Jay, I was like, man, dang, he was like so cool, and I was just like so smooth on court. I was like, it was like him and Greg and stuff, and like you guys playing up. So I was just like, all right, I don't know if I can, again, and plus that I plateaued at like 6'2", so I was just like, yeah, I'm not tall enough to be a basketball player. And plus that, like, I
gotcha
really fell in love with football and the process of football. By that time, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna play basketball just to stay in shape, and because I really like playing basketball. But like, yeah, after once I got to high school, I was like, yeah, I know football is my path to go play at the
yeah
next level. So yeah, I was, a halfway decent hooper, but
for
yeah.
sure.
I saw Jay play, then I was like, yeah, there's no way I can play at the next level. Like, nah.
So what? How was the path to finally deciding and ended up going
Yeah,
to
so
West
like
Point?
yeah, so like that was funny because like I remember going to it was my first visit. So, again, you get the chance to go to 5 schools. And it was my first visit. They had me on their first trip and stuff like that. So I went to West Point in like February of '99. And
Okay, yeah,
like it was just like the campus was like gorgeous. Like listening to the coaches talk and everything about my opportunities there and everything. And it's just like I fell in love with the school that weekend. And I was just like, dang. I came back because like my dad let me go there by myself. So I went there by myself like solo to New York. I got on a plane. We flew. I remember you guys talking about how you used to go all the way to the gate. Like everybody, your parents could take you.
yeah,
Everybody could go through the gate and stuff like that. So yeah, so we went to the SeaTac, got in,
yeah.
and hopped the plane to flew to New York. So like yeah, while I was there, it was just like got to meet
So
the coaches, got to see the campus. No, go
where do
ahead.
you fly at in New York? And then how long is that?
So
Yeah,
I
when you
flew
get
into Newark
Newark.
Airport, and
Yeah.
it was like an
Okay.
hour drive from Newark Airport to West Point, hour and a
Okay.
half. So one of the coaches picked me up, and he was just talking to me, and like I remember talking to him, and it was just like, hey, what are your questions going down? And I was like, hey, I don't have any questions, pretty sure about ball. But then I remember asking, I was like, hey, if we have to go to war, like, what's the chances of me going to war? And he was like,
That's a deep
oh,
question. Hell yeah.
yeah, it was like, I mean, again, you're in the army, and
Yeah.
obviously, the army's always preparing for war and stuff like that. And I was
1,000.
just like,
That's your job.
and I know it's like foreshadowing a bit with 9/11 and stuff like that. So it wasn't, again, 9/11 wasn't even a thought, obviously when I was going there and everything
Yeah.
like that. And maybe that would have changed my mind a little bit if I was like, obviously fast forward, if like we were at a country at war when I would have, I probably still would have went. But and he's like, hey, don't worry about it. Like, there's different jobs in the army where you can have different,
Yeah.
positions and everything
There's
like that, and
desk
what it would be.
jobs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah, and
other.
there's
Yeah.
different. Even if you're, fighting, there's different levels. You're not on the front line, whatever. So that's what he kind of told me. I was like, all right, cool. So there's like, everybody. That's what when I told people I was going to West Point and going to military, like, oh man, you're gonna go to war. You want to go to war and everything else.
Yeah.
So I was just like, man, like, all right, that's like a serious question I should ask.
1,000%.
But Yeah, so when I got there on the recruiting trip, it was like, you sit down, campus is gorgeous. It was like snow on the ground, but it was still, gorgeous. I remember being up on the cadet chapel, and then looking out onto the plain, and I was just like, you see the mouth of the Hudson. It was just like a gorgeous scene. And I was just like, damn, I could be here. This is where I see
Yeah,
myself. And like, they sit you down, and they have the right people talking to me. It was like, I remember a Colonel '06. He's a black guy. It was Colonel Johnson. That's what his name was. And he was just talking about like, the opportunities at West Point was like, hey, you get an Ivy League education, you're playing D1 football, and like not many colleges can say that they guarantee you a job after college. And it's free
true.
and you get paid. And I was just like, you get a little stipend and where you get, your money. So it's like, a D1 athlete, you hear stories about like, man, I ain't got no, like you heard about the
Yeah,
Fab Five.
for
Like I
sure.
couldn't buy a burger while I was in college and you're like, you're playing D1. So it's like, you have all this stuff and all this opportunity. I was just like, man, he's right. Cause like this is a great education. I get to play D1 football.
You
And
don't have to
I literally,
starve.
yeah, you're not starving, you clothed and everything. And like, you're in New York. And I was just like, man. So I was just like, I almost would have,
You
my
sold
dad
it to
told me, he's
me.
like,
I would have went too. I would have went. Yeah, you
man,
sold me. I would have went to
yeah,
West
it's
Point
funny
if I
because
had
like,
to.
it was funny because like I told that story to every recruit I ever hosted when I went to West Point, and I got every single. I was 100% until I didn't get my brother. My brother was the only one that didn't come to West Point that I talked to. But I told him something different. But yeah, so I went. My dad told me do not commit to nothing when you're there. So again, me being very disciplined and listening to my father, I was like, all right, coach. Like it was like when I talked to the head coach, it was Coach Sutton. But all of a sudden he was like, slipped me over and said, hey, you've been accepted into West Point. And I was just like, oh snap, this is crazy. And like I got an acceptance, acceptance little certificate and everything like that. So all right, he's like, hey, I love to have a great visit. I just need to go home, talk to my family, and then figure out some other stuff and everything like that. So
Real quick. You got accepted. Did you heard that you needed to get a letter from a congressman or senator
yeah, yeah,
you had that already? That was already in the books, or
yeah.
when you
I
got
mean, so
accepted?
like, no, I was like, again, it was like, so with football, kind of like, shout out to my guidance counselor. I can't remember her name, but she helped me with the whole application process to West Point. Because again, you get like really and truly, and like you want to go to West Point, you got to start applying like your junior year.
Yeah,
So I didn't
exactly.
start applying until my senior
Senior
year.
year. Yeah,
Yeah, so because again, getting recruited to play football, so the coaches worked with my guidance counselor to give me all the stuff, everything I needed. But
gotcha.
yes, I did have to sit down and talk to a congressman, and it was funny because like I'm talking to the congressman, you got to wear a suit, so I'm with a whole bunch of group of other people.
Who, who did you talk to? Do you remember?
No, I do not. It was like, hey, that's like 30 years ago. I have no, I can't remember it all. But it was like I remember sitting there talking to the person. And it was like again, so it's funny. Like
Was it a guy or
so,
a
the first
girl? Sorry, because I used to
it was a
work.
guy.
Was it
It
Norm
was a
Dix?
guy. I think it was Norm Dix. It might have been.
Because he would have been like
No, I
kind
didn't
of
talk. I didn't talk to actual congressmen. I talked to like a committee. It was like a committee that we
okay.
went for
Yeah.
in front of an interview. So I think they sat down and talked to him and stuff like that. And I
Yep.
remember the
Okay.
coaches when I was on my recruiting trip. The coach was like, "Hey, you got to go talk," because they set up the appointment for me to go do this to go talk to congressman after my recruiting trip. So when I come back, so I
Oh,
was like, "Hey, this is stuff you got to do to get," And they were having the thing, and so like I got set up for an appointment after my recruiting trip. But
bingo.
yeah, so he's like, hey, don't worry if you don't get the, acceptance. We got some generals that can sign off for you to get into, West Point and stuff like that. So it was like,
There's a way.
again,
There's a way.
there's a way to get you into West Point. So
Yeah.
it was like the first time I talked to him, he's like, hey, again, they looked at my GPA. My GPA was like a 3.9 or something
Yeah.
like
It's on
that.
point. Yep.
But then they looked at, yeah, my SAT score. So my SAT score, the first time I took it, I got an 890, which was like crazy because it was like, I remember people telling me, it was like, how did you get an 890? And then like some people that,
Yeah.
weren't doing as well academically, they was like, yeah, because I got 11 something. How would I score higher, better than you? I was just like, and I felt like terrible because I was just like, man. Like I remember somebody told me one of the classes, I think our math class talked about how bad I did on the SAT. And I was just like, man, this is it. But like me, I just went in and took it blind. I didn't study for it. I didn't do anything. I was just like, oh, I'm smart. I can figure it out. But
Yep.
I could not figure it
I
out.
took
So,
it
but
twice. I
yeah,
took
I
it
took it
twice.
twice too. Yeah, I took it twice and I scored higher. And then after that, they was like, accepted. But he asked me about if I thought about going to the prep school. And I was just like, I don't know what the prep school is. And I don't think I would go if I had to go to prep school. That's what I said. But,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I was able to take it again, got 1190 or something like that, and then got into West Point. So it's all good. Got accepted. I got the endorsement from the congressman and
Go.
everything like that. So yeah, so then like once the signing day came, called the coach and was like, hey, I want to go to West Point to play ball. And so, yeah. And then I was like, going to West Point.
So then what was that like for the rest of the year now that you already know that's already squared away? Because like, I don't know if you've heard, like a lot of us, especially senior year, but like for me, after I knew I was going to UW and I got accepted, man, I super checked out, which probably I shouldn't have done because that almost jeopardized my whole, like even going to UW. But like, yeah, what was that like? Okay, now you're set, you're going to West Point.
Yeah. So,
Now,
like, again, it was like there was still stuff I had to finish for the process to go to West
yeah.
Point. So I
See,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So like I couldn't like,
That's kind
completely
of a
check
good
out. Plus,
thing. Yeah, no, that's
yeah.
kind of a
Plus,
good
then like,
thing.
yeah. So like again, you had that West Point, so I couldn't really, I didn't want to do anything to fuck that up. So like, I didn't
Yeah.
want to like,
Yeah,
do nothing too crazy. So
for
I still kind
sure.
of stayed focused and stayed. Plus, that my dad is my dad, so it's like he not gonna let
Yeah.
me. Because I remember
Yes.
he told me, it was like, hey, if I ever find out you smoking, I'm gonna turn you into the NCAA myself. And I was just like,
Yeah.
what? Like you supposed to be on my side. How you gonna turn your son in? But he was like, so again, I don't think he would have, but coming
Yeah, he
back.
was
But at
just
the time, I
basically
was just
trying to
like,
tell you, man, don't
yeah,
play
he was
around.
scaring.
Yeah,
Yeah. He was trying to put the fear of God in me, and he did.
for sure.
But yeah, it was like thinking back to the funniest, like going into our senior year. So, you got to get cleared to go to college. You got to clear your thing to the National Clearinghouse, the NCAA National Clearinghouse. And I remember going into like class, you sign up for classes. I remember you talking about you sit there, go to the cafeteria like
You
early
stand in
and
front of
sign
the
up for, yeah,
teacher
standard
that
teachers that
you
you want to go
want.
to classes. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so like, I remember signing up for, so you remember like 12th grade language arts, right? Language arts are 12. And so I remember going in that class in the beginning of school year, like the teachers pulled me aside, was like, hey, we got to get you out of this language arts class because it's not fully accredited or something like that. So I was just like, what? So to make sure, because I guess they
Yeah.
knew that I was going to college to play ball, so they had to make sure I was in a class that was accredited.
Yes.
I ended up having to go into this advanced literature class that was like way harder than
Yeah.
whatever I was going to do in language. Because again, I'm just trying to get an A because that's all I want to do because,
Same.
make sure
Yeah.
that, yeah, yeah. But so I'm in there like actually trying to work. But then like a couple of weeks later, a couple of days later, they changed the whole course to make it accredited. And so then, but it was
You were
too
able
late for
to.
me to transfer back. I wasn't able to, so I had to stay in it. Like all my boys, like Mario, Marcus, all them guys were like, "Hey, man, I appreciate you having them change the class, so now we can stand this." I was like, I was so upset, but I mean, because it was like I'm out here struggling learning about like Homer's Odyssey and like Jason Inferno and everything like that, reading all these
Yes.
passages and trying to figure out these poems while they're just
Yeah.
like doing basic language arts stuff, which was
Oh,
probably better because again, hearing me go to West Point because where I had to take a poetry class where I kind of understood a little bit, but at the same time, looking at it, I was just like, this is crazy. Now I got to work hard. So to get
for
to
sure.
try to get an A. So yeah.
For sure, man. That's tight. It's funny. You. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You brought up those guys, Mario and Marcus and some of those guys. Like, do you have any stories with any of those dudes from school or sports or anything?
Man, it's like so like we used to like just clown each other all the time. I just remember just like on the bus rides to games, it was like always so much fun and just like just talking about like, getting ready for the game and everything like that. Just I mean, yeah, so it was just like yeah, I mean, I don't have anything specific because again, I didn't do much other than just play ball. So it's
For
like
sure.
everything I
You're
remember is
so
just
focused, which is good. Yeah,
surrounded about ball. So it's like, and like, oh, well, I remember about like stuff like that. So like, I remember this funny story about, like, you remember he used to never clean his uniform, right? I don't know if he's going to enjoy this hearing this story, but he had the dirtiest, most funkiest uniform ever. I used to hate lining
for
up next to
sure.
Rob because,
For
I was
sure.
just like, man, we need you to wash your uniform. Because, again, Washington, all the practice jerseys, all it did was rain and we practiced in the mud and rain all the time. And
Yes.
so I remember somebody, one of your guys' classmates, I can't remember who, did a prank on him. They took his stuff and
And
washed it
washed it.
and
Yeah.
then put it in his locker because, again, we didn't lock our lockers. We just threw our stuff in there and everything like that. So, and he was so pissed. It was like,
I
it was
remember that.
crazy. And, like the first thing he did was put on his uniform, find the first puddle and just jump into the
Jumped in
puddle
the
because there was
puddle.
this
Yeah.
big old puddle right outside the locker room. He just jumped in and rode it. I was just like, this dude is wild. Like, what are we like, there's no way this is okay. But,
That dude is wild, and that's why that I remember that story vividly. And
yeah. So
yeah, because it was like, oh man, what's he gonna do? And then of course he's just gonna like, and it was like that puddle was put there perfectly for him because like the
yeah,
puddle fit
because
him perfectly. It was literally the size of him. And all he had
Yeah,
to
and
do
he
was
just jumped in. I was like, what do we do? Like, we're going to go practice. Like, we literally
exactly,
are about to go practice. You ain't got to do this. And he jumped.
exactly.
I was just like, man, this is out of control. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, so but
Hey, do you remember going to Cispus, that Cispus trip where we were into like camping and it was like there was like a ropes course that we had to go to? It would have been before your junior year. I think it would have been after your sophomore.
yeah, I do remember like we're gonna do the trust fall and stuff like that. Like,
Yes, yeah, yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, 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 I do remember going to that. I remember like vividly. I just remember being there. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to
It was
like
a great team bonding experience and stuff. And
it
then we also did
was.
like yeah, I remember doing like passing leagues like before summer and stuff like that. And then also like we had changed over from like, I formation to like my senior year we ended up playing like a wing T.
Yep,
As
yep, yep.
it kind of fit to like Mario's strength a little bit as a running
Yeah,
quarterback. And then we also got, Will Bennett came back from
for
Bellarmine
sure.
and started playing with us and stuff like that. So we had a better backfield, a little bit better offense and stuff. And so changed up the offense a little bit. And then
You know what's funny now? I just thought of it. Nobody's brought up in any of these yet. Did you guys do one of our fundraisers for football was babysitting? Do you remember that?
no,
We
I did
would,
not.
yeah, we would use the school as like a babysitting center, like on a
Is this
random
like
like
during like
Friday night. It'd be like a Friday night, and we'd
in a
have like
gym, right?
the whole school. The library was set up for games. People were watching movies in the movie theater, so you needed the whole football team there, and like every
I
yeah,
do
you
remember
remember
that.
that?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
It's
do remember
crazy.
that because
I totally forgot about it too. I totally forgot
we
about
were
it until
playing hoops
literally
in the
just now.
gym.
Yes.
Yeah, we
So
played
like,
hoops in the gym all day, and then in the we'd watch movies in the library
yes.
and stuff like that. So
Yep.
yeah, I do
Yes.
remember that. That's crazy.
That is crazy because
First of all, that's crazy.
that
They
was all.
allowed us to do that.
Yes, but that was also a brilliant fundraiser though too, because it was just
Yeah,
like, I think it was like $10 per kid or something like that. And then we watch your kid for like 3-4 hours and then you come back
yeah,
to the school and then you pick your kid up. And then, cause I remember coaches
yeah,
were like, yeah, all you guys that have girlfriends, bring your girlfriends to help out too. Cause like, and so, which made sense. Cause it also, yeah, it was just, but you're right. It's like, I don't think that they would have allowed that today without strict like background checks on everybody and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Because we're
Because
kids too, so we're kids watching kids and stuff like
yeah,
that. So yeah,
exactly, exactly. But I mean,
hey,
we would have like
governing.
100 kids, like, but it was
Yeah, we
like,
would. We'd have the whole
yeah,
football team too. So it's like, which was
yes,
like,
no, it
I think we
was,
were 1-for-1 ratio anyway. So
yeah, yep,
yeah,
yeah.
and it was
We're
easy
all
because you just throw a basketball out there, and then the
yes,
kids was just running in the gym anyway. So yeah,
yes. I mean, we had so many different activities. So it's kind of fun for the kids. It's kind of like the kid got to pick whatever activity they wanted to do. And whether it's
yeah,
like play board games in the library or go watch a movie in the movie theater or play basketball or dodgeball or whatever games were going on in the gym. Cause like that thing was,
yeah,
yeah.
it
So,
was
and then,
packed.
yeah, it was, and then like, I think, remember, yeah, we had like, we would give out popcorn and it was just, it was funny. But
Yeah,
I liked those. Those were fun fundraisers because it was like kind of team bonding too, super
yeah.
easy, and it was just like, yeah. So that's just a
I
random
think my
memory
senior year we did it with
unlocked.
like the basketball team. I think because Coach Hoseth was like
Yeah,
part of the thing, so I think he opened it up to the basketball team as well. So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
so I
because
remember doing it with
if
like
you think about it, you kind of need as many people like as you
as
can,
possible. Yeah,
right? Especially
yeah,
if you have a hella kids that are coming, right? So, and
yeah.
I'm
People
sure
just wanted
like
to run everywhere.
yeah, as a parent, how like that's it's like, oh man, you don't have to pay a babysitter like $10 an hour. You just have to pay $10 for a whole three
Yeah,
hours or something. So and then
yeah.
you can
Because
go
the way
watch a
childcare
movie.
set up now is crazy.
Exactly, exactly. So okay, so now you're at West Point, right? And
Mhm.
man, so how was like kind of summarize your whole West Point experience,
It
So
was like I look at it this way, like it was like always West Point is like great looking from the outside looking in, but the inside looking out, it's not the best. Like it was a
it's tough.
struggle.
It's tough
Yeah, it
because
was tough because it was an adjustment because like I'm on my own. I'm not like again, my dad kind of helped me have this discipline to kind of where I could stay regimented a little bit and helped a little bit, but at the same time, you're still on your own. You're like the classes were ridiculously tough. Like again, I thought I was smart until I got to West Point. Like I
yeah,
remember taking chemistry. Like I took chemistry at West Point and I took physics. I mean at Spanaway Lake, but it wasn't. It mustn't have been a different term. It must have been like a introductory to the
yeah,
introductory class that we took. Because when I got there, I was like, there's no way I learned this. And so it was like I had a full day of class. So it was like one, you have like a military. So the summer before I had to go to West Point, like pretty much go through like Beast Barracks, which is kind of like a basic training kind of situation where you're
Wow.
like, where it's like you wake up, again, like 4 o'clock in the morning, have to fold, again, fold your clothes, whatever, get your room straight. Then you go do PT for an hour where you're
So you
doing
don't
nothing
get
but
to
push-ups
enjoy
and
your
sit-ups.
summer after you graduate high school, basically.
2 weeks after I graduated, I was at West Point. I graduated on 14th of June, 28th June, I reported to West Point for our day. So, yeah,
Damn.
so I had a 2 week summer vacation. So that whole summer I was there, and I was like, every day I was running like 3, 5 miles a day, push-ups and sit-ups, like all this kind of PT.
And this
And
is
then
a
I would
West
sit
Point
through
thing.
class.
This is not a football thing.
No, this is just West Point. Again,
That's
like once we got to a little bit, we they take like the guys on the football team would go off and we like get in the gym, work out a little bit, but it's like you're so tired, like
yeah,
literally like you're ridiculously tired. I'm like shining boots. I'm like trying to learn knowledge about like plebe knowledge about like West Point and stuff like that, like basic
yeah,
knowledge, and like you're learning about the army, learning about all these drills, and it's just like so much stuff at once. That's not even you don't even get to the academic year. That is just the summer before. Like, you're just running around, with a whole bunch of other people, and it's just like you're meeting like people and stuff like that. I'm a couple guys in my platoon, in my squad were on the football team, which kind of helped out a little bit. And like, it was cool because like the football team set up. So like, again, we had the prep school I told you about earlier. So every guy that came in straight into West Point was set up with a prepster, which was like awesome because they came through earlier. My roommate, who's became one of my good friends and stuff like that, Westwood, he kind of like hooked me up. He made my bed for me. He showed me all this other stuff. So he kind of like set me straight and got me straight
gotcha.
for everything I had to do. So it was like kind of, but it was just like that day was so stressful. Like our day was like ridiculously stressful. It was
Yeah,
just so much stuff. It's hot. Like my
yeah.
plebe year was supposed to be the hottest summer ever recorded at West Point at the time. So it felt like it was like 400 degrees outside every single morning. Like literally at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was drenched in sweat and I didn't stop sweating all day. So
Wow,
until I
yeah.
got laid down in bed. So
You keep saying plebe year. What's that?
also like at West Point, your plebe year is freshman year, then your
Okay.
yearling, yuck year, is sophomore, your cow year is your junior year, and your first year is your senior year. So, I obviously West Point terms and stuff like that.
See,
So
yeah, I didn't know. I was like, what plebe
Hey,
year? I was
hey,
like,
yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then I think during the academic year, Miss K, our vice principal, she
Yep.
came and visited me at West Point. I tried
Oh
to
no
find a
way.
picture of her. Yeah, so her and I think her husband had ties to West Point somehow. So they
Okay.
went to New York to kind of to tour West Point, and she knew I was there. So she I don't know how she got in
That's
contact with me because
nice,
like yeah, so she came and saw me, and I got to come out there and see her, spend some time with her and stuff like that. So it was real cool. So
dude.
I
I
was
didn't
like, I
know that.
appreciated that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, like during the first summer, obviously I people, some of my classmates would write letters to me, which is crazy. Like you would get mail, like no
Yeah.
emails, no texts, no
I
nothing,
used
because
to
like
write Robert in them all the time. Zach. I used to write
yeah,
Robert and Zach all the time
yeah. So
because
I would
that
get
was
letters,
because they were
while I
in the
was there.
military and same thing. We no social media. Like I don't know like what kind of numbers they had back then, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
weird. Just
yeah. You
writing
had to have
letters
like a
was
calling card,
normal.
because
Yeah,
because
calling
like
cards. Yes,
we had
because
calling cards because there was like a whole bunch of payphones down like in the basement where we stay. So like during a certain amount, like once a week, as long as you were good, as long as we were straight, we had like an opportunity to go down there and call our families and stuff like that, whoever we wanted to. So it was like, it'd be a bunch of cadets, new cadets. We were new cadets at the time. We didn't get accepted until we were finished. So we were called new cadets. But like a whole
until
bunch of
you
new
were
cadets
finished
sitting
with
there talking about
what? Until you were finished with
the
that
summer
summer.
training. So yeah,
Gotcha.
the
Okay.
summer training. We got accepted. So then we got called
Damn, they
cadets.
don't play.
And
You're not even allowed to be
it
called
was like,
cadets yet.
yeah,
Damn.
it was like, yeah.
That
So
brainwashing starts young. I love it. I love it.
I get, yeah, yeah.
I love
And
it.
so like,
It's dope. I think it's
yeah.
dope. It's like it sets your mind straight. So, but anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And then like so before that, yeah, so once we get through the first summer, then we have like 2 weeks where like we have like summer ball where we got to practice with the team. So it was like we got to go to our rooms a little bit earlier. So we got to come so we would like you had to go march out to do this field exercise and stuff like this week long exercise. But it was funny because the guys on the football team got to come back early because obviously we had to prepare for the season. So we didn't have to do the march back. which is like a big deal. But we were able
How
to come
far is
back.
that?
So we did like a 12-mile ruck march out to the field exercise, and then it was like a 15-mile march back. But we didn't do the march back. So it was like, yeah, and then yeah, that was grueling. It was like the
That's
worst experience
grueling.
ever.
'Cause that's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
being a cadet, not even part of football yet. So
Oh
now
yeah.
you're
So like I'm
basically
doing all this.
combining. Dude, that's
And you remember
brutal.
how you said I was a big kid, right? So I was
Yeah,
like, when I got there, I was like, I got to West Point, I was, like 225, 230.
yeah.
By the time I was done with my first summer, I was down to like 215, 212. I looked crackheaded. Like my neck was small. Like I felt like everything I ever did to get to prepare to play college football, I lost during that 3-month time period.
Wow.
So it was like, yeah, so and then this is even before ball, before school year and everything like that. So like, but once we get to the academic year, again, it's grueling schedule. You have like a full schedule. I think I had like 6 classes a day, and then I would have to go to practice from like so we would be up at like what 5 o'clock in the morning. You had to learn some plebe knowledge, some news of the day, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
do these all these stuff, and then you would go to formation, morning formation, and like 6, go to breakfast, then go to class from like 7 till like 11. Then we'd get out early to go to lunch, but we didn't have to go to formation. We'd have to go watch film. We'd have a film session during lunch for the football team. And then it was like, once we go to lunch, then we had like, I think I had like 2 classes after that. Then I cut to the bus from the campus area up to the football stadium. So I was there from like, I think I was there at the stadium from like about like 3 to 8 o'clock
wow.
every single day for
Yep,
practice.
yeah,
Then so for practice, once you get back to your rooms, it's like 8:30. You eat dinner up at the stadium. We would go from get back around 8:30 ish,
yeah.
and then like from 8:30 to midnight, I was doing homework. So
Dude,
yeah, and then so I was
rinse
like,
and
yeah, that was my
repeat.
yeah
My
every
God,
single day,
that's
and
brutal.
like the classes were like really. So like your first 2 years there, you have like I guess a general education, which you have to stick to and everything like that.
Okay.
But it was like, so I didn't like, I was barely passing my classes. It was like, I was getting like
Yeah,
B's and C's, and, I was just a struggle. But yeah, so, that first few months, it was just a struggle. I mean, I was playing ball, I was practicing, but, I was like low on the depth chart and everything. And it was just like, trying to, first gain your strength back from what you lost, and like, again, adjusting to playing ball, the speed, and like, it was ridiculous. Like, I was playing against grown men at West Point and
yeah.
stuff like that, and then in college and stuff like that. And
And
then,
I couldn't imagine
eventually,
how does any of the old linemen just be like
oh,
go through
once
any of
you
that?
like, yeah,
Like that's
so
crazy.
yeah, so you have to pass a PT test. Like once you pass your PT test, and then like they get put on a special athletes program where you have to do like they do a different PT test, and all you have to do is make sure you pass tape, which is like they measure your neck and your waist, and as long as it's in the right ratio, you're good. So your body fat has to stay below a certain thing. So you can be like, we had 300-pound linemen while I was
Okay.
away, but and they
I
were
was
able
gonna
to like,
say, yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that's and it's funny because like all the coaches just call me Spanaway because it was like, "What's up, Spanaway?" That was my nickname for my plebe year. Was like
That's
Spanaway.
tight.
Yeah.
So now, the probably what one of the most famous things Army's kind of like no or West Point's kind of known for, what at least with football, is the Army Navy game. How big was that? Like how big was that your first Army Navy game? What was that experience like?
It was crazy. So we played in Philly. So my first Army Navy game was the 100th Army Navy game. So they made a big deal about it. So it was just like, wow, you step into like what it was like I can't remember it wasn't Lincoln Financial, but it was like Philly. We played in Philly, right?
Yeah,
And so you in an NFL stadium, you
yeah,
walk out the tunnel and you just look up and it's like 80,000 people, like packed and just cheering. It was like such a surreal experience. I was just like, man, this is crazy. It was just, I was like literally floating. Like I was just like,
yeah,
man, this is what college football is.
for
I mean,
sure.
so it was just like, yeah, and like it's a great. Again, we kicked off first, so I was able to start the game and everything like that. So on the kickoff team, but it wasn't the best like outcome. We played, but yeah, the Army Navy game is always huge. My 4 years there, we won once. So
Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, it
yeah.
was always a great experience. We played in NFL stadiums every single time. We played in Philly, then Baltimore. My sophomore
It
year, we were
rotates. It goes around.
yeah. Well, I get it's mostly in Philly a lot, but then like for those 4 years it would rotate. So we were like Philly, Baltimore, went back to Philly. That's where we won my junior year, and then we were in New York my senior year, which was like
Gotcha.
ridiculously cold.
You mean New Jersey,
Yeah, in Meadowlands. We
technically.
played in the Meadowlands.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was in New Jersey. Yeah, but we played in
technically.
the
Yeah,
Meadowlands. Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, the old
Meadowlands.
Meadowlands Stadium. Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
now MetLife over there now.
yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
So yeah,
awesome.
and then while I was at West Point, I got recruited to play defense. So I started out as like an outside linebacker safety my first 3 years at West Point, and then my senior year I ended up playing tight end. Got moved back to offense and played tight end, and I ended up starting. So yeah,
Awesome, awesome. That's
yeah,
like on your recruiting trip, they were talking about like, hey, we're like one of the only schools that guarantees you a job after college.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, wow, what was that process like?
So like, yeah, it was graduation was a great experience. So it was like, once you get graduated, you get commissioned as a second lieutenant. So I got commissioned in the field artillery. So once I like, we picked our branch based on your class rank and stuff like that. So I chose field artillery. So, and then I was commissioned as a field artillery officer. So like, but like luckily, so after I graduated, in 2003, there was no retro years, 4 years there at West Point. So it was like straight 4 years. I graduated. And then I was able to stay on in GA with the football team. So I like my first assignment. I helped coach at West Point, so helped coach the offense. So which is a great experience because like again your mindset you
Yes.
think you want to get in coaching. So I thought I wanted to get in coaching playing ball, and it was just like again you see the whole recruiting process
Yeah.
and like planning, going game planning, offensive plays, and everything like what it's like to coach. Just help out. So and it was a great opportunity. I got to go to like again all the way games. Got to go to Hawaii. We played Hawaii that year, so it was like got to spend like a week out in Hawaii for the game. It was great. It was
That's
like
dope.
and so yeah, so that's my first assignment. And then after that, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for OBC. So field artillery OBC, where I basically learned, again, how my job as a field artillery officer. And so it wasn't too bad. Again, like I remember you asking people about 9/11, where they were with 9/11. So
Yeah.
obviously I was at West Point.
West Point.
Yeah, so I was sitting in class. I was in class in a systems class, one of my systems engineering class. I come to back to my room because I had a little break in between classes, and one of my boys, he was again had a break. He sent me a message on AOL Instant Messenger
That's,
and was like, "Yeah, you
that's
guys should
just a
come
funny
coach
way to
me." It's like,
communicate. That's a.
yeah.
I
So
love it. I
everybody
love
had
it though.
that was like, yeah.
Yeah, that was the
And he
college
said, "Hey,
thing.
he's like, hey, did you see the towers?" I was just like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Turn on your TV." So we had TVs on our computers where we could watch
Yeah.
TV and stuff like that. And then I saw like the plane. Like he saw the second plane crash. Like they were filming the first plane already crashed. He said he saw the second plane crash, and it was just like surreal to see all this stuff happening. And like
Yes.
I had teammates where we that again the Pentagon got hit as well. So teammates on the guys on my team had parents that worked in the Pentagon, and they were like,
Damn.
didn't hear from them, was trying to hear from where their parents were, what their parents were like doing. So it was just like a surreal experience. Later
Yeah.
on, you hear rumors like our West Point was a target as well because they said they grounded a lot of planes and some other planes
I
got,
mean, you're in
you
the
know,
area. You're not
yeah.
far
So it was
away
just
from
like,
all of those things.
yeah. So it was just a scary time.
Yeah.
Like I remember it was like during the middle of football season, we had a game that weekend, and they, obviously canceled the
Yep.
game,
All the games
and then
got
so
canceled that weekend.
yeah. So and it was just like a state of confusion and unknown, like the unknown then for real. Like,
Yeah.
cause again, there was a class graduating that were going to war. And then like, obviously, so the class of 2000, they were graduating to go to war. And then
Yes.
obviously the class of '01, they were, and then, so yeah, no, the class of '01 was graduating to go to war. So
Yes.
that's when it
Because they
happened. Yeah.
graduated, right? When is
Yeah.
graduation? June,
In
July?
May,
What? Oh, May. So
May,
yeah.
June around that time.
So they graduated May, June. That event happened in that September. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
like, dude, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
and then so like yeah, like literally like what less than 8 months later, where they're going to get trained, and then actually going to war.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like so when I graduated, we went to OBC. I was in get to Fort Sill. I got stationed. My first duty station was at Fort Hood, now Fort Cavasso, Texas.
Okay. Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, so and then like again, I got showed up. I was supposed to go to a unit, but they had stand up another unit, so I was supposed to go to like this MLRS battalion, but they were standing up another. So the army was transitioning to like a more modular force, and so they were transitioning, and then they were starting up this battalion. I guess I looked squared away. I like I pressed my uniform straight out the cleaners, shined my boots. One of the XOs, like the battalion XO at the time, he looked at me and was like, "Hey, you look squared away. You're coming with me." So then, I end up showing up to a unit, and then like I fell in as a platoon leader in one of the units that had just came back from deployment, and we were
Okay.
going to ramp up for a year to train for a year and set up a battalion, then train for a year, and then deploy within a year. So I got to Fort Hood or Fort Cavasso in 2005.
Gotcha.
By the end of no 2004, end of 2004, they just come back, and then by 2005, by that December 2005, that's when I deployed to Iraq.
Snap. Okay.
Yeah,
Dang.
so
And then how long
yeah,
were you out there for?
I was there for a year. So
Okay.
we was doing a simple convoy escort platoon mission. So I would take all like the leaders from the State Department to all the ministries in Iraq, kind of just do
Okay.
escorts,
Gotcha.
people so they
Yeah.
could have conversations and stuff like that. So all
For
the way through
sure.
Iraq. So yeah, it was a good time. It was
Yeah.
hard, stressful, just good times.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Did you have many days off?
yeah, we had like R&R, so it was like
Okay.
I didn't get R&R until like
While you
after
were
I was
out
like
there, you had R&R
yeah,
while you
so
were out there?
we had like 2 weeks off, like 2 weeks off, where you could come back to this, they'd send you home wherever you wanted to go for a couple weeks. But I had to come back. So it was like I think I was there for like 10 months before I got R&R.
Wow. Yeah. Damn.
So yeah. So you get like 10 months. I came back for R&R, and then yeah.
But I mean, like
I
your
needed it. I
week,
just
did you have weekends though? Or that seems like a
no
24.
no no.
Yeah, that
Hey, it
seems
was
kind of,
24/7. Like we had
yeah,
like
damn, that's
we would be on
crazy.
the road for like so pretty much they rotated us. So like every 4 weeks you would have like gate guard duty, but that was like pretty much
Yeah.
your week off, I guess. So we wrote so
Okay.
like 3 weeks on the road and then 1 week off. 3 weeks on the road and 1 week off.
Snap.
Yeah, so
Damn.
and that's
That
like,
is
again,
grueling.
yeah, it was. Trust me. You would go on like, one mission I went on was like a 2 hour drive one way. So and it
That's
was just like,
crazy.
obviously on roads that, were dangerous and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I luckily am so blessed that nobody in my battalion, we lost anybody. There was a couple
Amen.
scares, like a couple people got attacked, but
Amen.
nobody in my battalion, like, we lost any lives. So it was like, I appreciate like, my crews and, all the
For
stuff,
sure.
all my soldiers and stuff like that. We worked real hard. So me and my platoon sergeant, we kind of worked really well together, kind of like keep the safest, missions possible. One time we had a scare was
Dope.
like, again, we get like at night we might get like we were in armored Humvees and you hear like pinging from like gunfire, I guess. And then I remember one time we came back into the gate and like my platoon sergeant, his window had like got like a shot at and kind of like shattered his window, kind of like spidered his window. So it was like that was the
Wow.
biggest scare we had in my, but yeah. But I mean, it wasn't,
Nice.
we were safe. So yeah.
And then, so by the time you came home, right, like it wasn't like that. You didn't have to go back to Iraq or anything like that, right?
I mean, there was like again, luckily I only deployed once.
Okay.
Was like so like after you graduate West Point, you have a 5 year commitment in the military, right? So
Okay.
like I thought I was gonna do 5 years and be done because like again, talking to Colonel Johnson, like listening to him, he said after your military commitment, your starting salary is like 6 figures. And so I was like, 5 years, I'll be 27 making 6 figures, whatever. I'll like sign me up.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah. That sounds great.
But yes, like as I got to my platoon and stuff like that, and I was like leading my platoon sergeant, who was a black guy, and he was like, "Hey," he pulled me aside one day. He's like, "Hey, sir, I think what do you want to do? Like, do you want to make this a career or anything like that?" I was like, "Man, I don't know. I'm thinking about just doing 5 years and getting out." And he's like, "Hey," he saw how I was and said, he told me all this stuff. I was a great leader. But he's like, "Look at all the soldiers you lead." He's like, "They look like all the soldiers I led look like me." And it was just like, I think you should stay in and at least give an opportunity to see that again, a representation of like the leaders that I like served, other people that were like, my superiors, they didn't look like me. So like, I was like,
That's dope.
and my boss at the time, he said, "Hey, what are your plans?" I was like, "I don't know. I want to make a career. I think I want to," he said, "Before you get out, take command. It's like the best job you have. And then decide after that if you want to get out or not." So, I mean, that was my goal after that, was to try to take command. So I came back, I went to the captain's career course, and so then I was in Fort Sill, went back to Fort Sill after I deployed, came back to Fort Hood. I was supposed to take command there in Fort Sill, but by the time I ended up getting command, I ended up getting really, really sick to where I had like health issues. Where I was in and out of hospital for a year, I ended up
Damn.
catching like I caught pneumonia, but at the same time, the reason why I caught pneumonia was because I had a pulmonary embolism and a DVT, so like blood clots. It was like really, really bad.
So,
Yeah, so I was
how's
in and out of hospital for a year.
you good now?
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't like. Right, so I would play flag football. I played flag football in the Army. We ended up playing a game. I didn't stretch. Again, I was 27, 28 at the time. Like,
Yeah.
you don't think anything of it. I thought I might have tweaked my calf a little bit. We went on a plane ride. I slept on the whole entire plane ride. We went to a friend of ours was getting married in Miami. And then I thought I pulled a muscle maybe. For 2 months, I said I pulled a muscle. The doc was like, yeah, you probably strained a muscle, whatever. But actually, I had caught a clot. And then like that clot
Yes.
just like,
Yes.
and then I remember like my calf swelled up really, really big, and it just went back to normal. So it was like literally like 3 times. I got pretty big calves, like, and then it grew like 3 times the size of my calf. But then I woke up one day, I couldn't, like, felt like someone stabbed me. I couldn't breathe, and then like I was in my office giving a briefing to my boss, and I was like so much pain. It was like ridiculous. Went to the doctor. Doctor was like, "Hey, I think you have pneumonia. I would say you have a pulmonary embolism, but you're not complaining about your calf being swollen." I was like, "Actually, my calf is swollen." And like he's like, "All right, so
Bro.
you need to go get an MRI right now." So they gave me an MRI. They saw these clots up and down my left side. It was all through my lungs. It was really bad. And they were like, so glad he came in because, obviously he could have died. And it was just like,
Yes.
you don't think anything serious. So I'm like, for a while, they don't know what's wrong. And then I also had caught a staph infection during this time period too. It was just really, really bad. In and out of the
Yeah.
hospital. I caught pneumonia
Yeah.
again, caught more clots. And now I have this blood disorder now. I found out I have this blood disorder. So now I have to take blood thinners for the rest of my life. And like, you have to be monitored. But anyways, like, I gave a quick rundown. It was like serious, scary time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so at that time, like, '07, '08, I'd spent in and out of the hospital for a year. I was supposed to take command. That didn't work out. I had to take command later. So I ended up taking command. By that time, I was like, 10 years in. And then I decided to make a career out of it. So, but yeah,
Dope.
I'd be in the military. But yeah, so. And then
And then
once I became an ORSA,
when did you get to Virginia?
I got to Virginia in 2017.
Okay.
So I've been fortunate enough to stay in locations for a while. So like,
Yeah.
in 2013, I went to grad school. Again, like, because of my health issues, I couldn't stay competitive in the field artillery because, obviously I couldn't deploy. I couldn't, take command. I couldn't be in those positions where I needed to get promoted. I was a major at the time. So in 2013, I went to grad school. I got transitioned to become an ORSA, which is a data scientist in the Army,
Sweet.
operations research system analyst, data scientist in the Army. So I went to grad school. I went to
Dope.
K-State. Then from K-State, I went back to Fort Sill as an ORSA. It was my first ORSA job. Then I went to, then after that, I came up here to Virginia to work at the marketing agencies, to help recruiting and stuff like that as an ORSA in 2017. And that's when met Brienne. She was in Virginia, just
Yeah.
said, "Hey, you're in Virginia. I'm in Virginia. We should link up." We linked up, and her boyfriend at the time was a West Point grad, so we got to connect over that. It was cool.
Yes. Yes. That's such a small world. Man, and then the other random thing, just because I happen to follow you on social media and, and that stuff. Are you a Q dog?
Yes, I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
My bad. No disrespect. No
No,
disrespect.
no. You're good. You're
Yes.
good. You're good. You're good. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I didn't do it at West Point. I crossed over in a grad chapter while I was at Fort Hood. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Gotcha. So, because when I was at UW, this was like later, and I tried to join A5A, right? And
Okay.
yes, yeah, but my grades were not. I wish I had tried earlier when my grades were better, but by that point, I had like failed a few classes. You needed to be a 2.5, and like my GPA at the time was like 2.3 or something like that. And because I put in an application and everything, and I was supposed to go
Wow.
online and all that. Yeah, it was kind of serious. And then I got a refund back in the mail, and they were like, because of your grades, right now you can, but I was already like a junior at this time, and then I was just like, oh, okay, I guess this, that's not going to be my thing. But yeah, so like, how did you get in? What were your,
Well,
yeah, like,
the group of guys I hung out with, they were like, so I went to school, and one of my buddies, one of my good friends, like, he had crossed at West Point, so he like went through the
wow,
process at West Point. There was a opportunity, but like, I know I could, but like, I was trying to graduate, focus on that, and then like I don't think
yes,
my
yeah.
grades was great while I was
Means
playing ball and stuff like that. So yeah.
it's sad. That's almost like a Spanaway thing. That kind of hit me in the butt too. But yeah, anyways.
But yeah,
So
so then I got to Fort Hood, and I started hanging out with him and all his, the frat brothers and stuff with Omega Man and Q Dogs and stuff like that. So, and just seeing them, like, their brotherhood, their bond, and
yes,
it was just like I appreciate that because like again I had a brother and like growing up and like I miss my brother and it's just like you always have a friend with you and like and
For
the stuff
sure.
they were doing in the community is always great and so like I was able to join the process during that time and then now yeah so I have like there's 9 of us so I have other LBs so I'm still good for I mean we hang out there's like
Yeah.
4 or 5 of them here every day so I guess and I'm about to be like what 20 years in the frat now this year so yeah
Wow. Yeah. Damn. That's
yeah.
dope. Yeah. No, that's dope. No, because I saw that too, and I was just like, man, that's so funny because things could have changed if I was able to go through that whole process, but I didn't even get to start. So yeah, anything you can, I know it's super secretive and stuff. Anything you can mention about that process that you can say, like,
It was a good
not really.
time.
Huh? What's
It was a
up?
good time. It was a good time.
Okay, no, I
Great
love
fun
it. I love
experience
it.
and made lifetime friends.
That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. I love it. Do you talk to anybody from Spanaway at all at any
Like
times?
maybe an occasional message here and there. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's funny because like, Miss K's daughter, she married one of my classmates. So which yeah, I didn't like I didn't really know him at school, but it was just like funny how like, I think it was like an Army Navy game or something like that. And I like, she kind
Yes.
of messaged me and like talked about how he was stationed at Fort Lewis.
Yep.
And then they met through like a dating app and stuff like that, and they got married. So it's like, and they're still married today. So it's like crazy how just randomly that happened and stuff like that. But do I really talk? No,
That
I
is so
mean
crazy.
occasionally virtually. I guess we could stay connected. So you see
Yeah.
stuff on Facebook,
Yeah.
you like a post and everything like that. So I mean, but like I said earlier, I haven't really been back to Spanaway since like
Yeah.
when I went back for my 10-year reunion. Yeah, 10-year was like the only time, and then like they said my parents moved when my grandfather passed away in 2008. So it was a rough year. My parents moved back to Detroit, so they live in Detroit right now. My brother moved back to Detroit around that time as well, after he graduated college. And then
So
now
they're
my
both.
brother's back in Portland. My
Oh.
parents live in Detroit. My brother lives in Portland, so he's down in
Okay.
Portland. I was in Portland maybe like a couple years ago. So
Okay.
yeah, so other than going to visit my brother in Portland and stuff like that, that's the only time I've really been back to the West Coast. So back to
Gotcha.
Spanaway.
It's West Coast. Yeah. How often you go to Detroit then?
I try to go, as much as I can. Yeah, they probably say I need to go more often, but yeah, I kind of
For
like,
sh-
stay busy. So the army keeps me busy. It's hard,
for
again,
sure.
and plus I got kids now, so I got 2 kids,
Yeah. What
and
are their ages?
so my son, he's 13.
Okay.
He can't wait
Wow.
to be taller than me. So he's like,
Is he getting
he
there?
can't wait. Yeah, he's like what 5'9" now, and he's only
Damn.
in 8th grade, no, in 7th grade. And my daughter, she's in 4th grade, so she's turned 10 this year, like in September this year. So yeah, she just turned 9 not too long ago. So yeah,
That's dope. And
they keep me
are they
busy.
athletes?
I mean, my son, he's starting to come in his own a little bit athlete. So like, it's fun to watch. He made the basketball team for the first time. He tried out this year. I kind of been, helped him. I coached him play flag football a couple of times, but like, I've been probably like detriment maybe a little. I've been hands off because I don't want my passion to be embraced on him because
For sure.
I want him
For
to see
sure.
me as a dad, not his coach. And
For
I've
sure.
seen that kind of relationship of how where I force it on him or something like that, and it's
For
like
sure.
doesn't turn out well. So I think he's coming around. He says he wants to play tackle football. So like next year, so I'm like excited. So like this summer, gonna work with him a little bit, show him a little something. 'Cause I told him I got
Yeah.
all the tools. So if he ever wants to, learn how to play the game and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, your pops kind of played it at a high level a little bit, so was halfway decent.
That's
It
dope.
was funny
Yeah.
because like they asked, my kids asked me like, hey, can we see you play? Like, you scour the internet, and I came across a few clips of me playing ball in the Army Navy game, and I showed it to them, and they were like, wow, you really did play football. I was like, yeah, that was somewhat decent. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. I think this is a good time to bring up some pictures. Speaking of football, does your dad have all that film from?
He's like he's put on some discs and stuff like that. So from a couple games, like I don't know if he might still have the tapes and stuff like that, but I think he put it all like digitally. I
That's
think he
so
might
good
still
of
have
him.
it.
Oh my gosh. Dude, your
Yeah,
dad
so
is
he
on
sent it
point.
to me
Because
when I was young.
if he has those are like gold. I feel like I'm almost willing to watch. I mean, basically, anything that I was in, obviously I like to watch me play back in the day and like see all the
Yeah.
tackles I missed and but I had some hits in there too, but still it's kind of funny.
It was
Yes.
me. I remember Larry Larson, who went to Spanaway junior high with us, but then he ended up going to Bellarmine to play ball. It was like funny because I remember being in this common mall one time, and this girl came up to me. She's like, "Oh my God, I saw you in the paper." And I was like, "Oh wow." people really saw this, and people really checked it out. So yeah, it was kind of
Yeah,
cool.
that is cool. Man, this unlocked the. I totally forgot about Larry. So Larry was also in. Man, that's so random. But Larry was in that because me and Robert were ninth graders in that math class. He was in that math class with us too as an eighth grader, which was kind of crazy. So yeah,
Where at
at Spanaway.
Spanaway
So
Junior?
yes, but we would
Yeah.
go first period of the day. We would go take trigonometry at Spanaway Lake, and I forgot he was in that class with us too. Larry
Oh
was,
wow. Yeah.
yeah. So that's why it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because I remember him. He was going to Spanaway Junior, but then
Yeah.
high school
Yeah.
came,
Me and
and
him.
then this,
Yeah.
and then he went to Bellarmine. So
Yeah. Yeah. Me and him played. So me and him were the only two that played like in eighth grade. Played with the ninth grade team, so on varsity. And
gotcha.
so yeah. Yeah, so and it was great to connect with him that day. I just remember seeing him. I was like, "Oh, that player, what's up, man? How are you?"
Yeah,
So yeah, I remember Jay talking about like the guys that could have went to Spanaway Lake to play ball. Like he was another one that we could have had on our team when if we went to Spanaway Lake. Yeah, and this is showing us like all league team, me, Will, and Mario. I think we were all first team. I don't know, like first team.
nice.
Yeah,
But you bring up a good point because that's right. Larry could have, he could have played with that dude. That team would have been so good if just all those guys kind of came. And then even this picture right here with Will, like, maybe if we had Will all 3 years too, if he had come, and then like
yeah,
other,
because Will
other
went to Bellarmine too. I think he went to Bellarmine too.
yes, exactly. He went to Bellarmine, and then he spent his senior year. He came back to Spanaway, and then so it's just like like
Yeah,
it just happens where it would have
it's
been
like with us.
interesting. Yeah, it would have just been
Well, yeah, I was gonna
interesting.
say that. Yeah, I was gonna say like because Leroy and Craig Lee came back to play basketball their senior year at Spanaway too. So
Yes.
yeah,
Let's
it
see
definitely
here.
would have been interesting to see how things turned out, like differently, how our seasons might have been and stuff like that. But everything happens for a reason. It all worked out, so it was all good
For
times.
real. Okay, here we go.
Oh yeah, that was our last game. So I can't remember who we played, but it was
Oh,
like after the last game. Yeah, we won, we was good, and it was like I guess like that was the school's first winning season. We were like 5-4.
yeah. Hey. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
what it
think it was
takes
like
though. It took some time, I think
yeah,
mentally, when I was a sophomore, we went 1-8, as a sophomore. We had won one game that whole year, and that was Roback's first year. So dude, I
yeah.
think mentally it just takes a toll, and it's really hard to kind of change that. Like, you could catch lightning in a bottle if you have like kind of all the right players, but man, just I think mentally we were just not in a right
I
place.
think like your guys is like I think what so when I got there we had won a couple more games, and then like your guys' senior years we were really close on the cusp of like maybe
Very
making
close.
like yeah, like the playoffs. And we lost the game that kind of put us in the playoffs. It was like
Yeah.
we played well because like I remember Devin had like 100 yards or something like that. But we ended up like dropping that game and kind of cost us going to the playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but I think it was like your guys is like just constantly gaining and growing and then like by the
I
time
mean,
my
we've
brother got
tried.
there, like I think the year
Yeah.
after they kind of
They
made
started
state
having
playoffs and
success. Yeah.
yeah, so you
That
guys
that
definitely laid the groundwork. So.
yeah, for sure. I got a couple more here.
But yeah, and that picture was like Will, Dustin Drapeau,
Yes.
Marcus Crockett, Jermaine Tuggle. I think Jacob was in it. So yeah, it was like the whole crew and stuff like that. And Moody. So yeah.
Yes. I loved your class. I loved your 99 class. You guys were hilarious, man, and like you guys were fun to be around. Is this the same
Yeah.
game? The same last game?
Same last game. My mom was like, hey, get in this picture. So that's my brother, Dennis Newton, Mario, Ian, Jermaine
Dope.
Tuggle. Yeah.
Dope.
And those are the only pictures I could find.
Hey, it's all
Yeah.
good. It's all good.
Yeah.
I have a couple surprise ones for you.
Nah. I saw some other ones, but I looked so terrible. I was just like later, I was like scouring through Facebook. I was like, oh, and I was
And
like,
I
man, there's no
I
way.
could edit these out if you don't like them either.
Oh no, man, it's all good. We all look
You
the
know.
same. It's all good. People say I look the same anyway, so I don't know how I feel about that because I think
So I didn't show this one in his interview, but he gave me this one.
okay. Who's that? What? That's my senior. Who's that?
Yes. No, so Joseph gave me this picture.
Oh, Coach Joseph. Okay,
Obviously,
yeah.
obviously,
That's
because
from
like,
our senior.
yeah, because this
Oh,
is yeah, this
I can't see Coach Joseph because it's like my pictures are good. Yeah, Coach Joseph, Moody. Yeah, that was from our senior year. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. kind of crazy. Cause yeah, I mean, that's what we were saying. Like, man, if it's just kind of like all the Spanaway guys just kind of stayed at Spanaway, it would have been nice to see what we could have done just in all the sports with football and with basketball. So
Yeah, because it's funny because like I could almost left. I almost thought about leaving to go to after my sophomore year. Like my uncle owned this fish shop in Tacoma, and like the O'Day, one of the coaches came in there and saw me, and he was like, "Hey, what do you do? Do you play sports and stuff like that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he started talking to my dad, and my dad showed him film of me playing my sophomore year, and he's like, "Hey, have you thought about going to O'Day?" And I was just like, "What?" And I
whoa,
thought about it for a second, but I was just
yeah,
like, "Nah, I'm not going all day because one, it's like all boys school, and I was just like, there's no way I can spend all day just looking at dudes all
yeah,
day." And I was
yeah.
just, and then it was in Seattle, so I was just like, I'm not making that commute. I'm not going up there to make the commute. And I was like, form a connection with you guys. I loved your guys' class. I had so many, really good you, Rob, all you guys. I was just like, there's no way I'm leaving. And I'm trying to,
That's what's up.
I didn't want to run, and I didn't want to run away from competition. You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure,
So
for sure, for
and then
sure.
like my brother almost left too. He really thought about going to Bellarmine. I literally convinced,
Wow.
told him like, nah, you're coming to play with me. Like I want to play with you.
Yeah, yeah,
We
that's
never
what's
played
up.
with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, my brother was the only one I didn't get to West Point because I told him I was like, I could easily said you're coming to West Point. Simple as that. But it was like that's college. You know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah. It's
I didn't
different.
want to make that decision. Yeah, it's different. I didn't want to make
Exactly.
that decision for him. So yeah.
Exactly. Okay, how about can you see my screen here?
Oh, what is this?
I think you're a junior. I think this was our senior year, and this is Halloween. And you know what's funny? You're very consistent with the 40. Like, how? When did you start wearing number 40? By the way,
When I got to Spanaway Lake.
damn, you like owned it because, like, you know what's tight is that's a number that you could wear in both football and
Yeah, yeah.
basketball. That's what
It
makes it
just
so
worked out that
gangster.
way.
And
Yeah.
then you're like, you know what? F it. I'm gonna wear it for Halloween too. So
I think this was like a game. It had to have been a game, like a game week or something like that. And this,
this is
why do
like
I have those glasses?
Halloween day because I think in our because I see James is dressed up like that. This is Halloween. This is basically a Halloween gag, and I think it might have been maybe it fell like on a Friday too or something like that. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's wild.
Wild, just such a random
That is a
picture, you
wild
know.
pic. That is a random picture. I don't remember taking that picture. I didn't even know I had a class with James. The person I knew that picture was James. So,
Yeah, it was James, Ralph Weddle, and Brian Slater were in that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So that's why it's. I know.
That's,
So
that's
random, so
hilarious.
random. Yeah, man. So, when you sort of wrap this up, like, oh, so, whenever people think about or you hear the word Spanaway, what comes to mind?
I mean, I think that like it prepared me like I don't know like word, but it kind of prepared me for like, my future a lot because like I look at Spanaway as like being the most diverse place that kind of set me up for like success in my, going to West Point. I was able to interact with all groups of people because, growing up with we had like, kids from all walks of life, all different cultures. It wasn't like, we look back upon like the other schools like, the Rogers, the
Yeah.
Bethels, those Puyalls and stuff like that. I remember when we went to Sumner that the first my sophomore year, we had that incident where like they said some stuff after the game. We had our
Yeah.
they said some some wild stuff after the game, and we ended up like having a little altercation, and
Altercation,
like
yes.
and then I remember that was when Roback. I knew Roback had our back. He was like, I don't care what happened, what they said was wrong, and you guys were right for standing up for your teammate. And it was just like, so we
Yeah.
had that kind of stigma against us, and it was like, but I loved the diversity that we had at our school. And it was like, some people said it was hood, said it was like, but it was like allowing me to interact and be able to work with and like, talk to people from all walks of life. And, me going to West Point and then again, a PWI. So, and it was just like, I was able to talk to,
What is PWI?
white, predominantly white institution. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was able to, talk to, different groups, different classes, and I was just able to interact. And then obviously in the army, being a military school, like, we were probably like closer to the military base. So,
For
just
sure.
being in the military and growing up around that area. So again, I was able to, connect with my soldiers, talk with my soldiers and, just be able to relate to them and stuff like that. So, and, just that's so it prepared me for life. I didn't think about it, but growing up in Spanaway kind of just set me up for success in my future,
That's dope.
Yeah.
And then Man, anything else you want to kind of say to just anybody in general before I ask you this last question, or you know?
No, I mean, I appreciate, everybody through my journey. I appreciate, I know I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't like
Yeah, this why
connect.
this this is why
Yeah,
it's a
I'm
good chance
terrible.
to no. That's why this
Yeah,
is a good chance to like do like a broad like these thank yous are dope, man, because people feel that. I feel so yeah.
yeah. So
But
I
sorry,
just
go
want,
ahead.
I appreciate everybody, helped me along the way. Cause like, whether you think you influenced me or not, you did. And, there's too many people to thank. I know I named a few people, but, from your
For sure.
class, my class before us, like, class of what, 97. And then like, so it was just, all you guys were influential to my life. And I appreciate every single one of y'all. Whether you think you like, and, I know a phone works both ways, but again, it's, life happens and life gets caught up in life. But, I do be checking everybody out and stuff like that. It's good to see, connect virtually.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
feel free to reach
And
out.
that's what's up. That's what's up. And then, I like to ask this as the last question. If you could go back to 1999 and give yourself a talk, that day of graduation before you're off to head to West Point, what would that conversation sound like?
I mean, I would tell them like, don't worry, things will be fine. Things will work out. Like, don't stress over like the little things because they don't really matter in the big scheme of things. Like, just focus on what you need to focus on, and you'll be all right. So I was just telling him he's gonna be all right because I was like hella nervous after graduation going to West Point, and then like
Anxious,
just anxious about because going to something new and then also being in the army and again it's like different and like just and don't be scared of a challenge.
for sure.
That's
For
pretty
sure.
much it. And then hey, who
Awesome.
knows? You'll be a lieutenant colonel in the army. So yeah,
That's dope, man. Man, thank you so much for coming on the show today,
man, I
bro. We
appreciate you having me. And it's like
appreciate you.
I'm honored you asked me, and it's just this is super dope what you've been doing. Like I told you, this is dope to see
Yeah, man, this is for
everybody doing
us.
well
This is
and
for
just
us Spanaway
yeah,
folks. For all of
yeah,
us,
and yeah, and showing
Yeah,
a different
man.
side of Spanaway. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, man, thank you guys for joining us today. And we will see you guys all in the next one.
Peace.